All right, today we are going to you are going to be working with the quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula is used to solve a quadratic when some of the other methods aren't available, like factoring or completing the square or some of the other techniques you've been using previously. So the quadratic formula states to solve the quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, use the formula that x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, and then we're going to take all of that and divide it by 2 times a. All right, your a value is right here, your b value is in front of the x, your c value is the constant, the number in the equation that doesn't have a variable after it. So here's how this works. If you're asked to solve two x squared minus x equal to 4, all right, the first thing we want to do is get everything on the left-hand side of the equation and set this equation equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 4 from each side. So on the left-hand side, we get 2x squared minus x minus 4 is equal to 0. The next thing that I would suggest you do is list your a, your b, and your c. So the a is 2, the b is equal to -1, and c is equal to the -4. And then just take those values and substitute them into the quadratic formula. So the opposite of b, if b is -1, then the opposite of b is +1, plus or minus, square root. Now we go b squared, so it's -1 squared minus 4. And then I like to put this in parentheses, 4 times a times c. All of that is going to get divided by 2 times 2. Now, if you've got the TI-30XA calculator, you can do everything under the radical in the calculator. So I'm going to move over this 1 plus or minus, and then I'm going to take 1 negative and hit x squared minus 4 times 2 times 4 negative, and I'm going to hit equals, and I get square root of 33. And that's all going to be over 4. All right, so since this square root of 33 is in simplest form, and the 1 over 4 is in simplest form, you are finished. All right, so one solution would be 1 plus radical 33 over 4, and the other one would be 1 minus radical 33 over 4. I would suggest being extremely careful when C is equal to a negative. That seems to be a common mistake, is that negative gets left off somehow, and you end up with the wrong value underneath the radical. So, like I said, be careful there. All right, so let's try another one. We've got x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 0. Our a in this case is equal to 1. B is equal to 6. C is equal to 9. So our x is equal to the opposite of b, so negative 6 plus or minus big radical, and then we're going to go b squared, so 6 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 9, all divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. So I'm going to bring over the negative 6 plus or minus square root. I'm going to type in everything under the radical. So 6x squared minus 4 times 1 times 9. And I get a 0. And this is all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So we got negative 6 plus or minus 0 over 2. So you're only going to have one solution in this case. All right, it's going to be the negative 6 divided by 2, so our x is equal to negative 3. Everybody okay with that? All right, let's take a look at one more. Let's do 6x minus 5 equals negative x squared. All right, in this case, the easiest thing to do would be to add x squared to each side. And we get x squared plus 6x minus 5 equals 0. Our a is equal to 1, our b is equal to 6, and our c is equal to negative 5. So our x is equal to the opposite of b, which is negative 6 plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c. All of it over 2 times a, which is 1. All right, everything under the radical, we go 6x squared minus 4 times 1 times 5 negative, and I get a radical 56, all over 2. Now, this radical 56 has a perfect square in it, okay? Perfect squares. Perfect squares are numbers whose square root is a whole number. Square root of 9, 16, 25. All right, the square root of 1 is equal to 1. The square root of 4 is equal to 2. I'm sure this is review for everyone. All right, the list just continues. Now, this 56 has a perfect square in it. All right, the square root of 56 is equal to, what's the perfect square in 56? 14 and 4. All right, the square root of 56 is equal to the square root of 14 times the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is equal to 2. So you can rewrite the square root of 56 as 2 times the square root of 14. All right, so that's what we have to do in this solution. All right, so our x is equal to negative 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 radical 14 over 2. This 2 in the denominator goes with the whole number and it goes with the radical. Now, we can simplify both of these. So our x is equal to negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3 plus or minus. In this 2 radical 14 over 2, these 2's cancel. So what we're left with is just the square root of 14. And that is your solution. Negative 3 plus or minus radical 14. That would be negative 3 plus radical 14 and negative 3 minus radical 14. All right, and if you get stuck simplifying your radicals, just come see me today and I'll talk you through it. All right, so your practice for today is going to be page 245. Problems 11 through 16.